It is completely dark. Not nighttime dark, darker than that. There has never been a sun, not once, not ever, in the entire history of anything. And somewhere in that darkness, a god is being told to jump into a fire. But before we get to that, you need to know something that changes everything about what you are about to hear. This is not the first universe. It is the fifth. The gods built four before this one. For complete worlds, with skies and oceans and people living inside them, completely unaware of what was coming. And every single one of them collapsed. Not slowly. Not with warning. Just, gone. The text that records this comes from a 16th century Nahuatl manuscript called the Leyenda de los Soles, the Legend of the Suns. It is the closest thing we have to the gods' own account of their failures. And the detail that stops most people cold, when they actually read it, is this. Each of those four worlds had a name. And each name described exactly how it died. Written before it died. The Aztecs knew this. They lived with this. And when they built the fifth world, this one, the one you are sitting in right now, they named it too. Nahui Ollin. For movement. Hold on to that. We will come back to it. Because that name is not a title. It is a countdown. Back to the fire. The gods are gathered at Teotihuacan. No sun exists. No light exists. Just the fire, and the darkness around it, and the question of who is willing to become something that has never existed before. Texistecatl steps forward first. He is rich. He is beautiful. He is dressed in jade and the finest feathers, exactly the kind of god you would pick, if you were building a sun and you wanted it to look the part. He walks to the edge of the fire. The heat hits him. He steps back. He tries again. Steps back again. For times he approaches. For times the heat wins. Then Nahui Ollin walks up. Small. Sick. Skin covered in sores. The god nobody would have chosen. He does not hesitate. He does not slow down at the edge. He walks straight into the flames, and the fire takes him whole. A moment of total silence. And then, on the horizon, for the first time in the history of anything, there is light. Here is the part nobody tells you. The sun rises. And then it stops. It sits on the horizon, glowing, motionless, and it will not move. The gods have light now, actual light, for the first time, and it is just staring back at them. Refusing to start the day. Creation did not end when the sun appeared. It nearly failed in that exact moment, with the sun already in the sky, going nowhere. The gods understand, all at once, what the sun wants. It wants what Nahui Ollin gave it. It wants more of the same payment. So Tezcatlipoca steps forward. Quetzalcoatl steps forward. One by one, every god still standing around that fire pit cuts out their own heart and offers it upward. And slowly, reluctantly, the sun begins to move. The first sunrise in the history of the universe happens because gods killed each other to make it happen. Every morning you have ever woken up to, in this story, is the result of a debt. A debt that opened the moment the sun was born, paid first by the gods in their own blood, before a single human existed to do anything about it. And that debt was never described as settled. It was described as ongoing. This is where Nahui Ollin comes back. The four worlds that collapsed before this one were not nameless disasters. They had names, and each name told you exactly what killed it. One world ended when jaguars devoured everyone inside it. One ended when a hurricane turned every human being into a monkey. One ended in a rain of fire. One ended in a flood that did not stop until everything was underwater. 4 worlds. 4 names. 4 death certificates, written before the deaths. Now look at the name of this one. 4 movement. Nahui Ollin. Ollin does not mean movement the way a hand waves. It means the ground giving way. It means earthquake. The Aztecs were not guessing how their world would end. They believed they already had the name of the disaster. They were living inside a prophecy written at the moment of creation, where the start date and the publication date were the same morning. So what do, if you are an entire civilization, and you believe the day the ground swallows everything has already been named, just not yet scheduled? You try to buy time. This is where Huitzilopochtli enters. God of War. The deity the entire city of Tenochtitlan was built around, his temple at the dead center of the empire, not as decoration, but as the most literal machine the Aztecs ever constructed. The logic was not cruelty. It was engineering. The sun moves because of a payment that started with the gods cutting out their own hearts. If that payment stops, the sun stops. If the sun stops, Nahui Ollin arrives on schedule, exactly the way the previous 4 worlds ended on schedule. So the empire kept paying. Continuously. On time. Every time. Because late was not an option. There is a word worth knowing here. Teotl. A sacred force running through everything, through the sun, through blood, through the gods themselves. Not something you worship from a distance. Something that has to keep moving, the same way the sun has to keep moving, or the whole system stalls. And every 52 years, the Aztecs ran a stress test on the entire universe. It was called the New Fire Ceremony. Every fire in the empire, every hearth, every temple flame, every single source of light in Aztec civilization, was extinguished. All of it. At once. Then priests climbed a mountain outside Tenochtitlan, in total darkness, and waited. They were watching a specific cluster of stars. Watching whether it would cross a specific point in the sky. If it did, if the stars kept moving as they were supposed to, the universe had been renewed. The countdown reset. A new fire was lit on the mountain, carried down by runners, and used to relight every flame in the empire, household by household, until the whole civilization was burning again. If the stars did not move the way they were supposed to. That was it. That was Nahui Ollin. The earthquake. On schedule. Exactly the way the first 4 worlds had ended, on schedule, with their names already written. You can find versions of this idea almost everywhere. The Norse have Ragnarok. Hindu cosmology runs in vast cycles, each age ending in destruction before the next begins. Even Genesis describes a world wiped clean and rebuilt from almost nothing. Most major civilizations have looked at what exists and said, this is not the first version, and it will not be the last. But almost none of them did what the Aztecs did with that belief. Most cultures told that story and went back to their lives. The Aztecs told it, calculated which catastrophe was coming, gave it a name, and then built their calendar, their temples, their wars, and their entire economy around making payments against it, on time, every time, for as long as the empire stood. The bloodshed they are remembered for was not fanaticism. It was not cruelty for its own sake. It was rent. It was a civilization that believed it had read the lease on the universe, found the termination date printed in the name of their own era, and spent every single day trying to make the next payment before that date could arrive. The horror was not in the act. The horror was in the logic, because the logic was internally consistent, completely sincere, and never once failed on its own terms, right up until the moment something arrived from outside the system entirely. You have probably done some version of this yourself, without ever calling it that. Everyone has something they believe they have to keep doing, on schedule, without fail, or something they fear will arrive. The Aztecs just had the rare, terrifying honesty to write that fear into the name of the world itself. Here is the one question I want to leave you with. If you found out, right now, that the date your world was scheduled to end had already been written down somewhere, would you want someone to tell you? Or would you rather they did not light the fire at all? If this is the kind of mythology nobody talks about, the kind with actual stakes written into the name of the world, there is more where this came from. Subscribe if you want to be there when the next one drops. And if this one earned it, leave a like. It keeps the fire lit.